thank you so much for taking the time out. So I suppose the first question is, who are you and what have you been working on, essentially?
Go on, Liv.
Oh, okay. So I am Liv Warden, and I wrote the book for Gretel the Musical. I'm a playwright. My previous work has been based around like female narratives. My first play anomaly was on the Old Red Lion Theatre in London in 2019, and it was like a Me Too based inspired play about a Harvey Weinstein character and his three daughters, which did quite well. And then Gretel, has been the focus for the past few years. We wrote it initially very, very quickly because it was for a charity performance that needed to be done very quickly. But since lockdown, we've had a lot more time to rewrite, and so it's been really exciting. So that's me. Over to you.
Yeah, I'm Charlie Turner, and I wrote the music for Gretel. I wrote the songs, and I'm just a songwriter. So my work's been kind of released by other artists and played on Radio 2 and stuff like that. I've also done quite a bit of work in the last year or so with Shane Ward, who won the X Factor, playing for him and writing with him. And I just make a lot of noise.
Talking about songwriting, though, that first song is incredible. Listening to it on the soundtrack, it was amazing. But I suppose a bit more on that a little bit later. So how did you two end up working together? How did this project come together with you two?
Well, we have known each other since day one of year 7.
Wow.
Yeah. So with surnames like Turner and Ward, we would sat next to each other on a seating plan. So we got stuck with each other. So we kind of just thought we might as well get on with it, really.
Yeah, so how Gretel came to be is that we've been friends forever, obviously. But I was approached to do this charity performance for Gallup UK, which is an anti-violence LG. My God.
See.
Oh my God, oh God, it's early. So I was approached to do that, and they wanted to do a pantomime, and I was like, well, I'd rather do a musical, but I don't write music, so I knew that I had to bring in Charlie to do that. So I said, well, I'm in if she's in, so that's what happened, and I broached it to you, and you said yes, thankfully. And then, from there, it kind of it grew very, very quickly. We managed to get the other palace that was the venue, which is amazing, and that kind of gave us the impetus to make it good. So that's what we did.
So how would you describe the story to someone who's never heard of the show before? Obviously, loads of people have heard of Hansel and Gretel, but not this musical.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely a Liv question.
So the story is not Hansel and Gretel. That's kind of the biggest misconception about the show in any way. It's almost like the fourth wall has been broken, in that the characters, much like Shrek in the woods, they're very self-aware, like meta. They know that they are the woodcutter.
Okay.
Witch. So we've kind of got this world that, it's split into two worlds. It's the human world, which is set in 1940s wartime Britain, and then inside the storybook fairy tale world, which is obviously where Hansel and Gretel and the rest of the characters live. So there's kind of two parallel storylines going on at the same time. There's this, Second World War, horrendous uncertainty, family. Sophie and her daughter Daisy, who have this copy of Hansel and Gretel that was originally Sophie's, and now Daisy has found it. But because of all the horrendous things that are going on, this book hasn't been read since Sophie was little, which is 20 years. So it's been gathering dust on the shelf. And within that time, the characters have grown incredibly bored. They don't have their story to perform anymore. They feel like they have nothing to do. And so this kind of manifests in different ways. The woodcutter and the wife have had a messy divorce. Hansel is comfort eating the gingerbread house, and Gretel one day finds a dead leaf, and in a magical forest, leaves don't die. So she starts to wonder why this is happening, and puts two and two together and thinks maybe it's because our story just hasn't been read, and we're starting to fade away. So she kind of goes on this journey to find, almost like the Wizard of Oz character, called Jerry von Moonbeam, who is kind of the all-knowing director of Fairywood, and he assigns the roles to all the characters. He knows what's going on. So she's sent by the evil fairies on almost like a doomed mission to find him, and all the characters essentially, for one reason or another, try and follow her to either try and stop her or to find out whether she's safe or not. And then at the end, she finds out the truth. They all do, that they never thought, that it would ever happen. But that's kind of the story. Without getting too much away, that's the story. And then obviously the parallel between the two worlds come together at the end, and
in terms of music, balancing that sort of fairy tale, elements and war-torn Britain must have been quite difficult to put those styles together.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, when we started, the wartime thing was like a later concept, and when so I just sort of started writing like contemporary musical theatre, this kind of larger than life.
Yeah.
All the characters they're very more is more. They're so extra. They're so ridiculous. And so I was like, well, that's loads of fun, and I can do that. And then Liv was like, right, I figured out how to make it work with the human world. We're going wartime, yeah. And I was like, okay.
Radio silence on the other end of the
And we know each other well enough to like roll with that and just trust it. But I'm not gonna lie, I was going, sure, yeah, the war. Okay, just show me what you mean, and then I'll figure it out.
Well, we had a thought, because after the wartime thing was established, we weren't sure whether to make the music 1940s kind of vibes, but that was the question, wasn't it?
Yeah, it just kind of felt like actually the sort of juxtaposition sort of worked. Like it didn't really matter that it was a contemporary soundtrack over a 40s. It actually offset it really well. And in the production that we did at the Other Palace, everything visually, like all the characters' hair and costumes and makeup and everything was 40s, even in the forest, even in the magical world. And actually, I quite liked that they didn't match. And the stuff that the characters in the real world sing is actually fairly timeless anyway. It's kind of just classic songs.
Yeah.
So they're not super updated so that it looks weird. So I think we've balanced it out all right.
But why war-torn England? Why was that brought in? Why that specific time?
I was having trouble figuring out the stakes of the piece, because originally Gretel, her objective was to rewrite her own story and become this, this character all of her own, and not Hansel and Gretel, which is great. But a lot of that comes from actual like ego, and that's what wasn't quite working for me. So I was like, there needs to be a high stakes here, and thinking about nostalgia and heritage of passing down stories from generation to generation, it seemed appropriate to set it in a time where they wouldn't have all this media that we have now, and storybooks are a lot more important back then. And also, what we're going through now, the coronavirus, has been likened to World War II, and the huge events in our world in recent history, and the uncertainty and the importance of family, and all those things. I thought that actually, if you really dig deep, there are real obvious parallels there. And I think that when you listen to a song like Feet on the Ground, or one of the new ones, Dear David, which you haven't heard, it hits differently, because instantly, even though it's about a wartime subject, it's still human. And that's what I think Gretel brings to the table. Like, it has that nostalgic vibe, but it's still very much relevant in today's culture.
And the separation, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Like, we have been forcibly removed from our loved ones. So we get it on a whole new level now, which, it's kind of more relevant now, really, than it was before.
Yeah, but I don't think we've said this, but like in the story, Daisy is about to be evacuated. This is why the separation comes into it, because Sophie is faced with the agonising decision of letting her go, knowing that she will probably be safer, or keeping her with her. So it's kind of the demise of childhood. Sophie's in the beginning, and then eventually Daisy's. Whether she should let her bring this book with her and stay a child, or try and force her into adulthood. That is a huge theme in the show. Parenthood, motherhood, relationships between female characters is really prevalent in this show, which we've both really enjoyed.
Mm-hmm. You touched on your run at the other palace. How was that? How did it go? Sort of, yeah, about the show itself.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was a bit crazy. It all came together in a really, really short window of time. Like Liv said to me at the start of November 2018, do you fancy writing a show? And then by April 2019, it was on. So it was like we had a 6-month turnaround. It was insane. And we were very lucky that we had an amazing team of people in it. The cast and the crew were great. And it just kind of snowballed. It just kept getting bigger and better and more as we went along. And we were just really, really lucky to be able to have a venue like the Other Palace. And actually, since that run, like we booked one show that sold out really quickly. We added 2 more, they sold out really quickly. And then since then, the venue has been like so supportive. Like they're a lovely team there, and they have been so welcoming to us. Like they've kind of said that they're more than happy to have us back. We were supposed to be back this year. And then in January, and then now it's not happening at all, which is obviously really, really sad. But we definitely have got good ties with them now, and we want to kind of maintain that relationship because it's such a lovely venue.
And I suppose finally, what's next for the show, and where can people stay up to date with what's going on?
I think, next to the show is, of course, uncertain because of the climate we are currently in. But the concert was an idea for us to kind of showcase the new songs we've got, the new storyline that we have, to keep in touch with our base that is following the show. But, things get in the way and it's just not viable anymore. So I think for us, now that we finished the script, we had lockdown to do that. And I mean, the initial show I think was called like Gretel Draft 1 on my computer. It was so quick. So we completely revamped the show with a fine-tooth comb, and we're both so proud of it. So I think now, we are in talks. Annoying when you say it, isn't it? We're in talks, but we feel positive about it. I think what we'd like to do if lockdown is extended, and maybe early next year, is to do a virtual read through of the new script, because for a book writer, it's really difficult to know what works unless you hear it out loud. Mm-hmm. So that would be nice to do. But we just have to wait and see if we are 100% behind the theatre industry and it being viable when it's safe. So we are, of course, willing to wait until that happens. But at the moment, all we can do is try and make it the best show that it can be. And we have the luxury of time to do that at the moment. So.
Yeah, and in terms of sort of staying up to date with it, we just keep everything up to date on our social. So on our Instagram and on our Facebook and Twitter, and so we can send you the handles for all of that, for the fans. But yeah, that's kind of our way of keeping in touch with people really at the moment until there's more news. We're kind of in limbo like everybody else, I guess.
But you can listen to the soundtrack as it exists right now on Spotify and all major streaming platforms. But yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah. Okay, so that's all the questions I have. Thank you very much for taking the time out. And like you said, they can stream it on Spotify, the soundtrack as it is, and stay up to date on social media with the show. So thank you very much for sitting down and chatting with me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Bye.